What's up, everybody? Noble Comics here to ask, could Boba Fett collect on Samurai Jack?
Who's offering 2 Googleplex for your hand? 2 Googleplex. That's a lot of money.
Here's the scenario. Aku's fed up with his bounty hunters not doing the trick. He sends feelers out throughout the galaxy for the best of the best, and Boba Fett answers the call. He comes down to Earth, and he is told to bring Jack back to Aku, alive or dead. He knows that he's somewhere near the main city that they're always in, and he knows that he has a magic sword. Though Boba Fett assumes that he's familiar with magic swords at this point. With that, he set off on the city to find Samurai Jack and bring him back to Aku. Could he do it? That's the question. Well, let's look at what he's packing. So Boba Fett from Star Wars, right, is like the most feared bounty hunter alive, and he has quite the resume to back that up. He's a martial arts and weapons expert, mastering pretty much every single weapon in the galaxy. He's defeated numerous other bounty hunters before. He has like pretty much a 100% success rate. He's defeated and killed other Jedi before, including Ram Koda, including the clone of Starkiller, and he's even fought Luke Skywalker before. I was able to tank a punch from Luke Skywalker, and it did nothing to him while it hurt Luke's hand. And he also took lightsaber blows from Luke, and was able to fight Darth Vader as well. So Boba Fett has been able to tangle with both human and Force wielder alike, and always escapes alive. He's a master marksman, tracker, planner, tactician, and he always gets his man. What kind of gear is he packing specifically? Well, he has his trademark helmet, which has built-in comms, radar, infrared, different sorts of tactical vision. He has different weapons on him, like his typical blaster, wrist rockets. He's got his backpack, rocket-guided missile, various grenades, smoke bombs, knives. He's also got his jetpack, which allows him to fly. He's got his wrist grappler, which can grab, pull, and restrain targets. That can also be electrocuted, by the way. And he has his signature Beskar armor, which again can deflect lightsaber attacks. And how can we forget his signature wrist flamethrower, which he's used to great effect. We know he's strong enough to overpower seemingly much bigger and stronger aliens than himself, again including Force wielders. We know that he's fast enough to dodge laser fire, and skilled enough to fight multiple skilled bounty hunters at once and defeat them all easily. He was even fast enough to dodge a laser blast that he shot at Luke that was then deflected back at him, and he managed to not only get out of the way, but then blitz and tackle Luke, catching him off guard. He survived, again, lightsaber blasts, blaster blasts, hits from advanced cybernetic individuals, hits from Force wielders, explosions. He really is that archetype of character that's just like the most badass man alive. Extremely highly competent and skilled, again called the most feared, the most competent bounty hunter in the world. But does he have what it takes to take on Samurai Jack, someone who is very familiar with bounty hunters, let's say? So Samurai Jack doesn't have much in the way of gear. He has his gi that he wears, sometimes he has a little hat that he's woven for himself, and he has his magic sword. But that's all he really needs, as we've seen, as Aku has sent thousands and thousands of people to try and get Samurai Jack. Samurai Jack has defeated literal armies of robots that are trying to attack him, easily cleaving through multiple at a time, as he is a highly skilled martial artist and an expert weapons master with pretty much anything that he can get his hands on. Some notable fights that he's had is he's defeated a group of very well prepared, some of the best bounty hunters around, who have all gotten together to plan the perfect assassination of Samurai Jack. And they're lying in wait for him to show up, and when Samurai Jack crosses their path, he manages to fight and defeat all of them before a drop of water can fall from the roof to the ground. We've seen him dodge and deflect gunfire, energy projections, rockets, missiles. They even survive some pretty point-blank explosions, even though, again, he doesn't have any armor or anything like that. He's fought and defeated a very skilled shinobi who could essentially disappear from sight. He's fought and defeated a group of extremely skilled archers, all relying only on his sense of hearing. And then probably his greatest feat, at least in my opinion, is whenever he fought the Ultra Robots. Now, these Ultra Robots were said to have their armor created from adamantium, as in like Marvel's adamantium, what Wolverine's made out of. And whenever Samurai Jack first fought them, he couldn't even scratch them with his sword. Now his sword is unbreakable, so we know that he can be hitting them as hard as he can without fear of it shattering, and he still was not able to do anything. And they all had various abilities, right? One could shoot exploding rope, one had a flamethrower, one had a Gatling gun, and Samurai Jack was able to dodge and evade most of this. One of them could just go invisible. And they did beat him up a little bit, but he did manage to get away, even avoiding what looked like their infrared vision. Now, Jack did get a mechanical arm that allowed him to cut through most of these adamantium robots. However, whenever he went to fight the last one, the arm became ineffective. It seemed like Samurai Jack was surely going to die here, but he called upon his ancestors to send him energy from the sky. In the original wiki, they call this the gods, but it does seem like it's more ancestral power. And this imbues his sword with some sort of cosmic energy, and he's able to cleave through this adamantium robot in one swing. He's also fought disciples of Set, pretty much like Egyptian demons, and was able to beat them with a little bit of help. And he's fought giants, and again, the most skilled bounty hunters around. He was also able to carry what we can only guess is multiple tons of rocks on his body for days at a time as he worked to increase his leg strength, and then whenever he took all those rocks off, he could jump good and pretty much fly. And he's pretty much been able to beat any enemy that's been thrown at him along the way. But there is one outlier. Now, Aku has reached out for the greatest bounty hunters ever before, and he wound up with the Imakandi, these lion-like creatures from a different planet where it looks like all they do there is hunt. They live for the thrill of the hunt. And 4 of them are brought back to get Samurai Jack. And they actually win. So they're extremely skilled. They're like SEAL Team 6, in perfect sync with one another. And the very first thing they do is they're able to sneak up on Samurai Jack, which is a feat all on its own. And with a mixture of tranquilizing him, wrapping him up, and electrocuting him, they catch him pretty quick. Samurai Jack does escape, fights them off, and runs away, but they're able to track and pursue him across the city until eventually they do catch him with a little bit of a tricky shot. This guy has an arrow that turns into a snake, so Samurai Jack blocks the arrow turns into a snake, and then bites him, and that is enough to knock him out. Now, they don't end up turning him into Aku because they say that he is the greatest prey in the galaxy, so they go ahead and let him live because, again, he fought with honor and everything like that. But at the end of the day, this was still a defeat for Samurai Jack. So we know it's possible. Can Boba Fett do it? Now, I think Boba Fett would be able to track Samurai Jack down, right? The guy's not exactly hiding. I think he'd track him down and he'd approach him, and Samurai Jack would handle it like he would handle any other fight. I think the laser blasts that he would shoot, Samurai Jack could either deflect or dodge. I think the rockets that he would shoot, he could dodge as well. Even if they did explode near him, Samurai Jack's been able to shrug off stuff like that before. Now, I don't think Samurai Jack could get away necessarily, Boba Fett would always be on him. But if it came down to a straight fight, I think Jack has the advantage. Now, Boba Fett is used to fighting very powerful people, including Jedi. But Jack is also used to fighting powerful bounty hunters. And I don't think Boba Fett has anything in his arsenal that would put Samurai Jack down, because again, I think that he is extremely agile, and extremely durable, and extremely fast. And on Boba Fett's side, well, he does have Beskar armor that Samurai Jack probably could not cut through without his ancestral power. There are still gaps in his armor that Samurai Jack could cut and do damage to. And we look back at those 2 main fights that Samurai Jack had, right? I'm thinking about the Ultra Robots and the Imakandi. The reason he lost to the Imakandi is 1, he was caught off guard, and 2, they overwhelmed him with simultaneous specific attacks, right? Of like tranquilizing, electrocuting, wrapping him up. We're doing all this at the same time, we're all perfectly in sync, and we're going to overwhelm the guy. I don't think Boba Fett can do that here on his own. Nor do I think that he just has the tools available to do that to such an effective degree. I instead think that this is going to be more like the fight against the Ultra Robots, where it's less like a stealthy, tactical infiltration and kidnapping or execution of the target. It's more going to be like, we're going to land down, we're strong, we're indestructible, we have all these weapons at our disposal, and we're just going to beat you. A very head-on approach, very much a challenge to someone like Samurai Jack, saying, hey, I'm better than you, I'm going to take you in, try and stop me. But even in that fight, things did not go the way of the Ultra Robots. They did in the very beginning because, again, There were a lot of them, they were overwhelming him, and Samurai Jack had no counter to them. He couldn't cut them at all, but he was still pretty easily dodging explosions and flamethrowers and bullets, all of which, again, are very similar to the arsenal that Boba Fett is going to have with him. The problem was that Samurai Jack had no offense. Now, he does know this technique now, of being able to call upon his ancestors, cut somebody in half, even though he's only really done it once. But again, he doesn't even really need to, because Boba Fett's armor is not all-encompassing. At the end of the day, Samurai Jack is just the most skilled person in his universe. End of story. He can block or deflect or outrun bullets. He can fight, again, armies of robots at a time. He can fight other supernatural beings who can infinitely summon souls of fighters to fight on their behalf. Not to mention the fact that he goes toe-to-toe with Aku, the most powerful being in the universe, who can infinitely shapeshift and has unknown numbers of just all these different powers at his disposal. But Samurai Jack's the only guy who can fight and defeat him, and that Aku actually fears. I think Boba Fett probably has the wrong tools for engagement here, and for Samurai Jack, this is just another bounty hunter. Because Boba Fett may think that this is something similar to that of a Jedi, right? An enhanced human with some sort of magical sword, which seems pretty familiar to him. But he is incorrect. He would be greatly underestimating Samurai Jack. This isn't just some being who has space magic and a magic sword. This is the single most skilled individual in the galaxy as far as combat master, weapon master, tactician, durability, speed, strength, who's been put in pretty much any scenario that you can imagine against all the odds, against the most powerful beings or bounty hunters that the universe has to offer, and he's always come out on top. I think Samurai Jack's speed alone probably gives him the advantage here in the overall fight, because again, I don't see how Boba Fett manages to stop him, to get him in one place long enough to be able to kill him. Because his flamethrower's not going to do it, his blaster's not going to do it, his rockets aren't going to do it. Good luck with your grappler or anything like that. I think Boba Fett just might be out of his depth here. And look, I love Boba Fett. He's probably my favorite Star Wars character. But he's the bad guy, and Samurai Jack's the good guy. Samurai Jack always wins. But for real though, Samurai Jack probably does have the most experience killing bounty hunter, maybe of any fictional character, certainly any that I can think of right now. And while granted, most of them are of a pretty low caliber compared to somebody like Boba Fett, he has gone up against some of the more powerful versions and just other very powerful supernatural beings before. And if he can't defeat them outright, he is able to quickly find a way, think of a way to beat them, and then is able to use that advantage and beat them. He's very intelligent also. This is just not a guy at the end of the day that Boba Fett is going to be able to muscle through. And for that reason, I think that Samurai Jack wins. So I think the question of can Boba Fett collect the bounty on Samurai Jack, I think the answer is no, he can't. Samurai Jack would come out on top and continue his journey to find a way back to the past to defeat Aku.